So while we're starting on our first step, I'm going to go ahead and get my hot plate heated up and warm. So I've got my smelter on my small plate here, and I'm going to turn this on high, all the way up as high as it'll go. And I've still got a little metal in there, but I'm going to take some of my plumber's solder and put a little bit more in. I'm just going to roll this up and cup it in the bottom. And this I'm going to put on low. And I've already got a completed cast here, and I'm going to stick this cast on here to let it warm up. This way, when you're pouring your molten metal into your cast, if this is cold, it'll harden up too fast and it won't make it all the way to the bottom and it won't fill up properly. So you just want to get it warm, and low setting on here is going to be about 125 degrees. So you'll be able to pick it up and flip it over and get all the sides nice and warm. And I'm going to set this to the side while I finish up. Okay, so the first thing we need to do is we need to make a frame to build our mold in. And that's where these pieces of wood come in. These are all basically about the same size. They should all be the same size. I really didn't take a whole lot of time to measure these out. I did on my larger mold, but on these, I just kind of winged it. This is the bottom one. So I'm going to set this one down, and these are going to be the sides. And I'm going to take my Play-Doh here. Now you can use modeling clay, which would probably work better. This stuff's a little soft, but it does work, and it was like the first available that I could find. So I'm going to mash my Play-Doh and try to get it even and consistent around my mold. You're going to want to break off a little piece and save a little piece of this for touch-ups. I'm going to save a little bit more here. Now I'm going to take my giant block of wood and I'm going to make this as flat as possible, because this is going to be the frame of my mold. And now I'm going to trim the excess off with my steak knife. And now I have a basic form that I can put whatever I'm trying to cast in. Now, selecting the type of model that you want to do, you want to pick something that's symmetrical, that doesn't have any what they call undercuts. Like if you have an undercut, is something that comes out and it'll stick your mold together. I've got a Star Wars plane here. Also got a Battlestar Galactica plane, and I think this is called the Invisible Hand. These are all metal. These are from the titanium edition of Micro Machines or something. Something you don't want to use. Like, see, this one looks like it would be okay, but here there's a lot of stuff in here, and if the mold gets in there, when you try to pull it out, when you try to pull it up, it's going to break your mold and it's going to look kind of crappy. We're going to use this one. Now it still has these jet engines in here, and there's several different ways that you can get around this. The simplest and easiest way to do this is I'm going to stick a little bit of Play-Doh in these cracks so that when I separate my mold, the Play-Doh is going to fill this in, and you can cut it out later, or you can just paint it to make it look like it's not there. Another way you can do this is you can make a three-piece mold where you have a bottom piece of the mold, a top piece of the mold, and then a mold for the sides, so that you can pull out this part and this part. So, and the other way, the third way to do that, is you disassemble your model into all the different pieces and cast them all separately. Cast them all and then put all the pieces back together on your duplicate. So, what we're going to do, we're going to sink this down in here. It's not going to go. It's not going to go deep enough. Here, hang on. I'm going to flip it over. So I'm going to sink my ship in right to there. I'm going to take a little piece of Play-Doh, stick it down into my jet engines here so that my mold will pull out. So that's down in there, and it's level and flush and set in. Now you can see it sinks down, but that's where my plaster's actually going to come down here, and we're going to peel away the Play-Doh later. So I'm going to take my walls, and I'm going to fit them on thusly. Now if your frame is tight enough, you should be able to clamp it, but see, it's going to look like that, and we're going to fill this in with plaster. Now if your seals aren't tight on the side, you can take a little bit of the Play-Doh and you can make some gaskets on the side here. I found that making gaskets like this, the way they show it on the website is to like push it up in there, but the gaskets work a little bit better because it makes the molds look a little cleaner and neater. Now I'm just going to come up. I'm going to squish it together. I'm going to scoop up the excess. And I'm going to clamp this together. You got to clamp it down low so that it hits the bottom piece of wood. So now that's nice and tight, and it's not going to go anywhere, and my mold is going to look halfway decent. Alright, the next step is going to be to make the plaster.